Hello and welcome to week 2 of Advanced Child Learning Theory and Research. So I hope that you are enjoying getting into this course, and I thoroughly enjoyed reading all of your introductory discussion board postings. I have always found that even in an online classroom, we can find such similarities together simply by interacting with each other on Blackboard. So I really appreciate you taking the time not only to post your own introductions along with pictures, but to spend the time really responding to your classmates. It's so great, especially as y'all are at the end of your program, to see that you've already built these relationships because you've had classes together, you are currently in classes together, and of course the thing that keeps us all binded together is that you are at the end. So everyone is together celebrating that you're very close to the end of this journey. So again, thank you for posting your responses to that discussion board, and I tried to make sure that I responded to each one of you individually to personally welcome you to the course and share anything that we may have had in common, or just kind of share in your successes. So this week, as we are moving on to our next theorist, which is Maria Montessori, that's probably a name that you are pretty familiar with at this point in your educational journey. So last week, as we were looking at John Dewey, who really kind of started that progressive movement in education, challenging the way that it was thought that children learn and should be taught, you're going to see that Montessori kind of did the same thing. So as we are looking at Montessori and her methods, I wanted to show you what I have in Blackboard for you this week. So when you go under the Montessori folder, here's the PowerPoint again that's going to kind of give you a lot of that foundational information about Maria Montessori. This is a reading that you can kind of read at your leisure that focuses on Montessori, but I also wanted to give you a couple of videos, and I'm going to try and do this as many weeks as possible. If I know that there are some good videos that are going to enhance the information in the textbook, then I'm going to make them available to you. So this one down here is just kind of an introduction to Maria Montessori and her life, whereas this is more focused on the philosophy. So although Dewey certainly was, kind of a leader in education, which helped start some different types of schools, Montessori is different in that the Montessori method is alive and well and is clearly delineated as Montessori. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar not only with the Montessori method, but with Montessori schools that are around, and we have quite a few of them in our area. Now, I know many of you are in different areas of the United States, and so it would be interesting to hear from you whether or not Montessori is very prevalent in your area or maybe not so much. I would say that we have a handful of Montessori schools in the Hampton Roads area, but it is definitely something that if a parent wants the Montessori method, they are well read on what the Montessori method is. Those of you who may not be aware of it, what you're going to find, and it's again based on what Montessori believed, is that there's a lot of freedom that's going on in those classrooms. You are not going to see a lot of direct instruction. You are going to see some mixed age grouping in there. But as you walk into a Montessori classroom, you're going to see that children are actively learning, but they are learning at their pace. They're learning with materials that are interesting to them and that are going to help them reach their goals. And kind of like Montessori, it was stated in the chapter, the teacher is not supposed to be up there doing direct instruction. The teacher is really observing and facilitating the learning of each child that's in their care. So hopefully this video will kind of just give you an introduction to the philosophy and what it actually looks like in the classroom. Again, just like with every theory, there's a lot of people who put a lot of value in Montessori's theory. And then, as always, you're going to have critics. who say that maybe this theory isn't quite as sound. But I do think it's interesting, just like it was pointed out in the textbook, that even though it may not be actually said that something is Montessori, you may find some of Montessori methods even in the mainstream classroom. So it will be interesting as you are reading through the information and viewing the videos for you just to kind of reflect on whether or not this is something that you strongly believe in. Maybe you believe in parts of it, or maybe it's not something that you personally feel is your teaching method. And that's one of the things I really want you to take away from this course is each time you go through this theory, each of the theories each week, I want you to be looking at what parts of it are you going to use and what parts of it are you going to discard, because that's how new theories come to be. But as you're going through each one of these theorists, you are literally building your philosophy of education. Every single week when you complete the journal, you're already saying, these are the things that I believe about this. These are the things that I don't believe about this. And this is how I can use it in my classroom. And hopefully by having you do that each week, I'm helping you start to figure out, especially as you're getting really close to being in that classroom, or advancing your education as you're already in the classroom, you're starting to figure out these are the things that I strongly believe in and I want to make sure is a part of my classroom. So again, you've got some videos in here. As I said, every single journal is going to look exactly the same. But I would recommend that you are saving these because I just think that there's no reason to reinvent the wheel when you get down to your final philosophy paper. But the other big thing that I'm going to introduce this week is your book review assignment. So last week I introduced the theory assignment, which is going to be due at the end of next week. But your next big assignment is actually to do a book review of one of the theories that is presented in this textbook. So when you look at the table of contents, you're going to find quite a few different theories and theorists. And so the purpose of the book review is for you to find one that you think that you might be interested in learning more about, and then taking the time to actually read a book, either written by that theorist or written about that theory. So if you click on the book review link here, it's going to take you to what is actually in the assignments. So basically what you are going to be doing, as I said, is finding a book that you are going to read, either by the theorist that you choose or about the theorist and theory that you choose. Again, this has to be a book. It is not an article. It's not a collection of articles. This really needs to be a book. That's why the only textbook that you have for this class is the Understanding Theories, because the other reading that you're doing is based on what you are interested in. Now, before you freak out, this is not due for quite a while. So this is your chance to get started on it, especially as you are at the beginning of your courses, and hopefully you haven't kind of been thrown into the fire at this point. So most book reviews are around 5 pages, so you know that you're not going to be looking at something that's going to be extremely lengthy, but for the most part they follow a pretty set pattern. So what I've done here is given you a couple of things to think of as you're starting to read the book. Again, you have complete freedom in what you choose. I have said before that I really want this to be such a practical course for you, especially since we're tackling something as heavy as theory can be sometimes. So this is your opportunity to pick something that you are interested in and to learn more about it. So some things you're going to want to make note of. When was it written? Some of these theories were originated hundreds of years ago. So it may be a more current book that's written about it, but you may find some books that were actually written by the theorists themselves that are going to be much older. Do a little bit of research about what was happening in psychology and education at that time. So kind of what was the overall thinking about education during this particular time period of this theory coming into existence. And so then you're going to be looking at the central ideas, what kind of evidence the author is using to make their points. So this is kind of the breakdown of how a book review normally goes, and you can find several of these on the on different Google websites, but the introduction is normally around a page. It's probably not an entire page, but that's a good guideline to use. The summary of the content is normally around 4 pages or so, and then your evaluation and conclusion is around 1 page. Now, that being said, I am not holding you to these exact standards. What I am going to say is make sure that you answer everything fully. I would say try not to go more than maybe 7 or 8 pages, simply because I'm not asking you to rewrite the book. I'm asking you to really hone your summarizing skills, your analysis and reflection skills to be able to put it into one cohesive document. And so I've given you the point breakdown, kind of what I'm looking for in each one of these. But my suggestion is as you go through the book, make notes as you go, find themes that are consistent throughout. And again, as I said with the theory assignment, I'm a big fan of headings just because I think that it makes the organization flow a lot better. So again, this is not due until close to Thanksgiving. So you have quite a bit of time to get the book and to start working on it. So again, I hope that this is going to be something that will just kind of further your knowledge about the theory that you've chosen. I will tell you that you're probably going to use more than just that book, because it may be that you need to use another reference to kind of back up what it is that you're saying. But be really careful about your citations. At this point, you should be pretty familiar with the APA formatting. I'm not going to say that I'm like the APA Nazi, but I am going to say that especially with the master's level course, I'm expecting that your citations are going to be done correctly, your formatting is done correctly. Just in case you've never used them before, and I'm sure that you have, but in case you haven't, there are search engines that actually will help you with your citations. One of them is called Citation Machine, and it actually allows you just to kind of pick the source, the formatting style that you want. You can either autofill or you can enter everything yourself. The one that I actually used the most when I was writing my dissertation is called Night Cite. And so it's the same information. It's just, for me, it was easier to kind of read it this way. So like I said, I'm sure most of you have already found an engine that works for you, but if you haven't, then I highly recommend that you find one that you like, because every time that you write scholarly, you're going to be asked to cite these sources, and it's so much easier when it just kind of spits it out for you. So I think that is it for our Montessori week. I hope that you have a great time reading about Montessori, maybe learning more about the person and the theory than you actually knew before. And remember that your theory assignment is due at the end of next week. So that means by Sunday of next week it needs to be submitted. But I am perfectly happy to grade assignments that come in early, because it makes my life a little bit easier as well. So enjoy reading about Montessori, and I will see you in week 3.